also have their fees paid by government, and the UPOLET for USCE. The others will pay, and the fees have not been changed, and I would like to announce the fees. For primary living examination, the fee remains 34,000 per candidate. For the Uganda Certificate of Education, the fee remains at 164,000. And for USCE, the fees remains at 186,000. Before the registration of candidates, we would like to encourage parents and the head teachers to agree on the particulars of the candidates who are to be registered. These include the names and the order in which those names should appear on the registration, and ultimately that information will be what will appear on the result slip as well as the certificate. We have had challenges in the past where after registration has been done, and sometimes even the candidates have sat the examination, then you find a parent who shows up and says, my child was growing with the mother, now I have brought him or her back to the clan, we want to give him the clan name. So these kind of things must be done before registration, because trying to do that after is a very messy affair. The requirements for the UCE examinations, I want to note that this year we are registering the third cohort of our learners under the competency-based curriculum. And this curriculum requires that candidates register for a minimum of 8 subjects and a maximum of 9 subjects. Continuous assessment scores for these subjects offered, as well as the project scores, will be a requirement for certification. And so, schools must register candidates who have CA scores from Senior 3. Any candidate who does not have continuous assessment scores for Senior 3, even when they sit the examination, they will not be eligible for certification. Any candidate who has no project scores, even when they register for the examination, they will not be eligible for certification. UCE repeaters, just before that I should also note that the candidates whose CA scores have been submitted already should make sure they do not change their names. Neither should they drop the subjects that they have already been registered for at Senior 3. This is extremely important because failure to do that will cause a lot of distortion in their results and certification. Those UCE candidates who may wish to repeat the examination, we must make sure that they have complete scores for Senior 3, for CA, as well as Senior 4, because we now exempt them. We use the scores that we already have in the system. For USCE, this year, the candidates are the pioneers of the CBC, those that sat the competency-based examination for the first time, the first cohort in 2024. This year, they are now sitting the USCE. They are going to be assessed under the aligned curriculum. I'm sure you must have had earlier pronouncements from National Curriculum Development Center that the USCE curriculum, although not completely changed the way that the UCE one has been done, has been abridged, has been aligned rather, to ensure that the cohort that is sitting now does not find a very strange environment in as far as the examination is concerned. And the assessment also has been aligned to rhyme with the UCE in that the questions or the tasks that candidates are going to have are based on scenarios like the UCE examination papers have been. We expect only candidates who have passed the UCE, either in grade 1, 2, or 3 for the old curriculum, and those that have result 1, those are the ones that should register for USCE, because those are the ones that have passed. And we expect that the USCE candidates would have pursued this course for at least 2 years before they come for registration. There may be those that wish to repeat the USCE examination. They did it in 2025, but the results are not what they wish to have, and so they can repeat. We have they can be allowed, and they will be given unique codes. They will be given unique codes because we do not have them in our database as yet. And then that procedure also applies to adult candidates. They will be given codes, and also those who may have had legally changed names, those that went to court and had their names legally changed. We want to encourage schools, when you admit foreign students or students with foreign qualifications, you should have their results equated at the point of admission. Because if they are not equated, you cannot tell at what level that student is. We are aware that there may be need to amend the data which have been submitted, and we are giving centers up to the end of the normal registration period. In other words, amendments of data, that is names, subject combinations or subjects chosen, and so on, can be done without any fee up to the end of this coming month of June. Thereafter, any amendments that a school submits will attract a charge of 50,000 shillings. You want to amend a name, you pay 50,000. You amend, you remove a subject and substitute it with another one, that one will cost you also 50,000. In other words, any amendment that will be made by the board after 30th of June will attract a surcharge of 50,000. I did announce at the beginning of my brief the fees that the board is charging. That is 34,000 for PLE, 164,000 for UCE, and 186,000 for USCE. However, we are aware that there are some fees that are being charged illegally, but are being called UNEB fees. According to the UNEB Act, Cap 259, Section 33, it is an offense to charge fees that have not been prescribed by UNEB. So heads of centers, school directors are cautioned against calling other administrative charges that they levy, calling them Uganda National Examinations fees, examinations board fees. Because if there is a complaint and this matter goes to court and a person is convicted, the offense is a fine not exceeding 40 million shillings or 2,000 currency points, or a term of imprisonment not exceeding 10 years or both. That's the maximum that court can provide for them. So those that have been convicted will be required to pay back that amount that they have charged. The board will also withdraw the examination center of such a school and the person who has been convicted may also be punished in accordance with other provisions of the requirements of the education profession. So aggrieved parents or members of the public who have been charged exorbitantly in the name of examination fees should be free to file complaints with a nearby police, because this is a criminal act. Do not expect UNEB to police and go to every school to find out how much they have charged. It is the responsibility of anyone who has been aggrieved to seek redress. And the law, according to the UNEB Act, will protect such people. Warn about misappropriation of registration fees. Quite often, we find out towards the examination that students from a particular school were not registered, although they had paid fees. And the director or the head teacher who collected the fees has disappeared. And so such students have missed examinations in the past. So we want to caution heads of centers or their representatives to make sure that all UNEB registration fees are remitted and that students are duly registered for the examination. Anyone who fails to do so also commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 2,000 currency points or 40 million shillings, or a term of imprisonment not exceeding 10 years or both. And this is provided for in Section 32 of the UNEB Act. Such persons will also be required to refund the monies that they have collected and misappropriated. The other warning that we want to sound is the registration of private candidates as government-sponsored students or candidates. This is particularly common in primary schools, where heads of schools have picked students or pupils from private schools that are not registered by the government and put them under the UPE. And in this case, they even collect the fees from such pupils, but they do not remit. And so this is a fraudulent act, and any head of the examination center or school director that is found indulging in this practice will be required to pay twice that amount, the money that they defrauded. And the relevant laws on fraud will also be applicable to them. Display of the candidates' registers. The UNEB Act, Section 4, subsection 2, requires that examination centers display the registers in conspicuous places, the notice boards outside that can be easily accessed by the pupils or the candidates and the parents and any other interested persons. So we expect by middle of August, all examination centers, whether PLE, UCE or UACE, must display registers of all the candidates that have been registered at the particular centers. We also expect that heads of examination centers to ensure that by the end of the registration, they make printed copies of the registration slips from the portal. It is a responsibility of the candidates, the parents, and heads of centers to confirm the biodata of the candidates. They must verify the correctness of the details, and the candidates themselves must append their signatures on those registers to accept that whatever information has been entered for them is correct. Such information includes spelling and the order of names, spellings of names, the order of names as they appear, as I had already said. And this should be as captured on the birth certificates, and the format should be the date followed by the month and then the year. The correctness of gender, a male candidate must be indicated as male. We have had challenges where a male, obviously a male, is indicated on the register as female, and vice versa. And this is embarrassing. And the right photographs. The board now prints examination result slips with the candidates' photographs. The certificates are also printed with the candidates' photographs. So it is extremely important, therefore, that the right photographs are fixed against the right candidates. And we also require that these photographs must be of high quality, high resolution, taken preferably by a professional photographer, so that as they are printed on the result slips and the certificates, the resolutions are good enough for anyone to have a look and identify the person on that photograph with the person who owns. This is extremely important for primary living examination, where in many cases the district inspectors of schools have hired people they call service providers. And these service providers are the ones that literally conduct the registration. They take the photographs and they append the photographs against the names of candidates. Because they are not associated with the school, quite often you find the wrong photographs are being placed against candidates. So we would like to warn school heads that this is an extremely important exercise and must be given all the due care that they require. By mid-August, we expect that the registration data in our database will have been cleaned. Schools will have submitted amendments that they would like to see, and so by mid-August it will be possible for anyone who is interested to check the accuracy of the registration using SMS, the very same way that we will check results. So you will still type the registration number of the candidate. That means that by that time, whoever is interested should have already ascertained the index numbers that have been given to the candidates they're interested in. So you can enter that index number, the examination that you are interested in, and send to the 6600 code. And that is going to return a message showing the name of the candidates, the subjects for which they are registered in case they are UCE, USCE, and also the index numbers and the candidate's picture. You will be able to see these. So these also will help the parents, guardians, and any other interested persons to establish whether or not their candidates, their students, or their children have been registered. So we encourage that parents and any other interested persons use this facility that the board has availed. Finally, we wish to notify learners, parents, and heads of centers about the use of pens whose ink can be rubbed off. We have had a development where schools are acquiring these types of pens for their candidates. There are two problems with this. One is that with the time, the ink will fade off. We have had cases where by the time we are marking the scripts, the handwritings of the candidates can hardly be read because the ink has faded. Secondly, it is now an avenue for malpractice, where candidates can rub off whatever they have written earlier on and substitute with answers that have been given to them during the examination. So the board announces that the use of these erasable pens is banned, and no school is allowed to have their candidates write using these pens, and anyone that is found doing this will be subjected to our disciplinary procedures. We wish to pray to the Almighty God to bless our aspiring candidates, and I thank you all for listening to us. For God and my country.